Hello to my friends, families, and enemies. Today I have a talk for you called Petty Thieves Get Caught. The big robbers take it all. Make it all fall into the abyss, if at all possible. Them say them love me, but it was yesterday. But them have to switch it up all again. 'Cause fallen angels don't even know how to love anyway. All they got is a black hole to steal everything. I don't believe in a single word that they say. I be truth, hope for late. When I'm in the truth and I know how it will feel. 'Cause self-respect and discernment is the real deal. To have a smidgen of free will on this earth, I better have some fun for what it's worth. Even if I'm in a country club prison psychologically, I still got to remember somehow how to be free. Petty thieves get caught. The big robbers attempt and often succeed in taking it all. Now, how is that possible? The contradiction is amazing. Christ Sophia made the original divine Namulu Christos human race, but we were very kind and loving and naive, socially vulnerable, surely. So when the Elohim arrived, a race of advanced ET tyrants who need to kill in order to survive because of their need for blood, when they met her, Anu or whoever it was, when they met her and somehow unplugged most of our DNA, the one they call the light bearer, who insisted on these gadgets having a blue light screen because that was the most addictive and harmful out of all the colors that they could have used. So this so-called divine being, who I call the junior god, Anunnaki, somehow unplugged most of our DNA and turned it into so-called junk. Humans, this amazing species made from the really divine, was purposefully denigrated to slave, dumbed down and repeatedly Stockholm syndromed, trauma bonded to our enslaver master geneticist, master of mind control, ET oversoul race. Trauma bonded and memory wiped and generally coerced and terrified into becoming what you see now, what you call the human race now. Their power. What gods or governments didn't get all they have from theft? Which god, which king, which government legitimately got any property, land, not to mention jewels and mansions and kingdoms and queendoms and abilities to make mandates and rules and laws over you? Which one didn't get those without using conquistadores or soldiers or coercion, theft, stealing? When the United States was going after the Philippines, Mark Twain, he let him have it. He was a reporter as well as a book writer, and he, of course, those articles weren't published very much in the press, but, So, if you're watching this on Odyssey or Rumble, tell me, man, which god was able to take over anything without theft? I mean, aside from those of you who have regained your sovereignty, your self-discipline, your mastery, your courage to be the sovereign Lord or higher D over yourself. Be in dominion of your own body, rule over your own flesh suit, and respect. Okay? Aside from those of you who've actually achieved that goal, who obviously and inherently would be intelligent enough not to want to rule over others. Through all of their suffering and blood offerings, and obviously it's all based in lies, done through, all these horrific crimes we've seen these beings do, demanding the firstborn son. So through all of their suffering and blood offerings and then strict obedience to the rules and plans of their vampire junior god false father, the Hebrews were taught not only ritual blood sacrifice, but of course banking, Kabbalah, and the vast organization and controls necessary to turn this beautiful divine globe and sacred heart-based species into bloodthirsty petty tyrants fighting over territory. Not to mention, sharing their wonderful ritual of biting the head off of an infant's penis after it was born from the, in a sacred ritual, to becoming surgically capsized and having the mass amount of people, say in the USA, coerced or gently coerced into telling the mother it was for hygiene to cut, take the baby away from her after it was born and cut their penis to look like a military helmet for hygiene. So there's a lot of theories around that. And so, yeah. I'm not blaming it on them. I'm just saying, as Cliff High has said, that they were Stockholm Syndrome, trauma bonded, and they were taught by these beings who have mastery over such things as mathematics and, dogma that leads people to kill. I mean, look what's happening there. I mean, there's two different sects that follow these Anu gods, fighting each other to the death because that's what their gods told them to do. I mean, that's not conjecture or exaggeration. That's what's going on in your face. Now, the part that was hidden was when I subscribe to Crux.news on YouTube channel, Crux News, and CRUX. And sometimes when I want to learn what's going on, and they show protests and wars and things going on in other countries in the mainstream media. Otherwise, you won't learn on any other channel. And as far as I'm aware, and so one day I go on there and there's a protest, a peaceful walk, and there was Palestinians and Jewish people, a peaceful walk to Netanyahu's house, his mansion or whatever, president mansion, to declare that they refused to fight war anymore, that they were done with it. And they had, they had the Israeli Secret Service. You could see them pointing guns at any people acting weird, and so they were actually keeping the peace really well. There was no violence at all because the Secret Service were just, you could tell they were really focused on it, keeping it from erupting. And of course, I went back the next day, and that was scrubbed off. They deleted that video. They'll delete videos off that channel if it's stuff they don't want you to know about. And another one I was looking at on that channel was some Palestinian woman had organized a protest in New York City against the bombings in Hamas, and I saw some rabbis holding up signs saying that they were opposed to Zionism and all the violence that the government of Israel was doing and all the killing. And I got half a tear in my eye because I thought, well, here these guys are. They're so, they love their crazy gods and their rules, but yet perhaps they love Yeshua too, and they got the message of peace from him, and they decided to go down there to New York City with science because they're sick of, that side of it. They're sick of the endless war side of it. So they were taught not only like, to make sacrifices, or the idea that other races were cattle or goy, but of course banking, Kabbalah, and the vast organization and controls necessary to turn this beautiful globe into what you see now, into this, contest over territory. Sick-ass religious hegemony and the creation of the three types of obedient followers, of the three Abrahamic religions, all taught to get on their knees, literally or mentally, and give all of their energy over, and act like it's a good idea to give all of their energy over, all of the moments of their life, to the masters of torture and killing spree who designed their religion. I mean, all this is, I'm just telling you what's really obvious. It's, when you live on a really beautiful place called, Gaia, Earth, or whatever it's called, this globe that has been repurposed as a prison planet loose farm by these really masterful ET fake gods. So here it is, man. People were taught to get on their knees, literally or mentally, and give all of their energy over, all of the moments of their life, to the masters of torture and killing sprees. And remember that we're good. We're good. We love you. We make you our slaves, and we steal all your energy because we love you. Eventually, this sickened Stockholm Syndrome, over 1 million years now, according to Lisa Renee's psychic intuitive research, over 1 million years, this sickened Stockholm Syndrome took over the minds and bodies of humans and even most of this earth with the geoengineering programs. Okay? It's a fact, like it or not. It's amazing. I mean, part of the awakening process is going through this psychological torture of facing the truth. It's harsh. I know it's harsh. I'm not trying to be harsh, but the truth is harsh in this era. So, it's amazing theft. When you think about the level of mastery of theft it took to come up with something like the fiat, creating money magic that's based out of nothing, and make it work. And, the petrodollar, the paper money has, for a century, it works so well. It's amazing. I mean, usually it wouldn't last that long, but perhaps Donald J. Trump or whoever is going to create a sound money system, and that'd be great. So if it actually happens, but when you look at the intent and you look at the symbology on that paper, I mean, it says a lot. They have the seeing eye on there and everything. So this is the modern, as Passio says, money is the most popular religion now. But again, there's a reason why, capitalistic hierarchy or classism is built in, It's just, the fact is these beings are far more advanced than us, not just in technology, but in, obviously in distortion of thought, or controlling your mind with bullshit. How did God turn this really beautiful place? I mean, this place is really beautiful. This planet is a really beautiful planet. I mean, if you take away the geoengineering, you take away all the trash dumping that the fake gods have done, you take away all the mind control, all the violence, you remember that you're not a violent person. And let's say 65% of the whole human race remember that they're not really violent idiots. What would this place be like? God, how did God, quote unquote, turn this really beautiful place into a soul-sucking loose farm? Well, they're really good at what they did. They really did a thorough job. they paid for all the, literally they funded all the sides of all the world wars. They had ETs dump things to create the bubonic plague. They brought in the MRSA and the H1N1 and then the COVID-19 and all that. They designed all these genocides. They steered the hurricane to Asheville and what happened in Lahaina and Paradise. All these direct energy weapon hits. Last Chance, California. All these hippie towns got lasered down to the ground. I mean, they put this book of Revelations, in my opinion, was, somebody said this and I thought, well, that really strikes me as probably being true. That the book of Revelations, that Lucifer was kind of speaking to this guy, Lucifer was telling this John, whoever the fuck, this is what we're going to do in the end days, so that when the Zionists and the Illuminati and the Devil Worshipper Club, when they'd have this technology in the year 2020 something, they'd be able to go up and then get all the Bible thumpers, all the Muslims and all the Jews to go, well, it's the end time, so we got to blow each other up, it's what our Bible told us. So, if humans, a lot of other people in the soul trick community have said this before, but I'll say it for you here. If humans aren't very powerful divine beings, then why would they have to go to all these tricks? Why, if they wanted to just suck our energy, then why would they have to go to all these means to hide? And I've said before that there's originally, before Loser 4, before the Anunnaki, Junior God, Mind Control Masters got here, there was free will on this planet for this species, which people, believe it or not, was here before them. And so they can't openly break the rules. They can't break the rule of free will, of the law of consent. And so, but you see, when all these people get on their knees, when they circle and chant counter and walk counterclockwise by the hundreds around the cube in Mecca, and when these Jewish certain sect of rabbis, they actually strap this black cube around their third eye. And they don't know that they worship the same God, that it's the same God, or maybe two different gods who were the same, brothers who told them to kill each other. It's sad. It's really sad, but it tells you how powerful these beings are. Okay, so the vampire ETs called the Anunnaki or Elohim, Lucifer 4 was so great at torture-based theologies and subterfuge, creating chaos and control out of pure lies and threats. These beings are really good at their con artistry and their killing sprees. And so, but what Marianne Williamson, a Jewish person that I think in a way is on the side of freedom, and as I said before, I'm really thankful for all the people with Anunnaki blood who are on the side of truth and freedom, who serve the liberation of the human race, and they're out there, But Marianne Williamson said, something to the effect of, our greatest fear is not our inadequacy, but our greatest fear is that we're more powerful than we can imagine, something like that. And so we can't handle it, man, because, God has terrified us into getting on our knees, because he'll beat our ass. He'll send the archons to create an accident if you become powerful. That's, it's going to happen on the loose farm. So what happened is, over the decades and the centuries, and since the Salem witch trials, it's anyone who has free will is going to have to hide. Either that, or they're going to have to be able to get rich off it. Then they won't have to hide. If they can get rich off it, then it's all good. Otherwise, you're screwed. Yeah, Osho said, never give it to people, always charge money. So I had to learn the hard way from, the last several years. But that's all right, because I've taken so much. I often thought the situation I was in was, these beings were trying to figure out a way to get me to have compassion for them, turn me into a vampire. However, in the end, especially after my accident, it only made me want to, destroy their fake control as harmlessly as possible myself, rather than, because I don't want to hurt anyone else, but, what is, and the truth is the truth. And whether this video is deleted or shadow banned or anything or shared, it's on those people. It's not. I'm not here to harm anyone. So, I take the risk in working with strangers and these corporate pseudo open source platforms. So anyways, the secret societies since Atlantis built out the governments, helped them harvest our energy and dumb us down into farm animals to be used as slaves and prisoners, as we, hundreds of other people have said. We've got a lot of evidence for this, Only here, especially if you become wealthy, you can be a warden or a slaver. That's right. Even if you don't have that blood, you're not from those bloodlines, you're not that certain race. If you're, as Obama said, if you're willing to strike it rich, you're welcome to come move to a USA, or you're welcome to move to the promised land or get into heaven, no matter who you are. Because, we could always use you as someone who terrifies someone back in. We could always use you as or whatever, some other role up there. If you are a narcissist, a psychopath with no morality or self-respect, if you have a black hole instead of a heart, you will get promoted on planet Earth. Well, let's let it be Earth instead of Earth, man. How about that? Because Earth was one of these Anunnakis in the beginning with Anu, I believe. Fiat began to be printed without silver or gold backing it around 50 years in. If you find a quarter, nickel, or a dime before 1965, 1964 and a half, it's 90% silver, and then they took the gold out with Nixon, I believe. So it only has value because we believe in it. Because it's just so popular and convenient. We love it, and I would put a side note that the only reason why it doesn't fall apart rapidly is because I think it's 10 or 30% hemp. Once God had Jews, Muslims, and Christians all killing each other in endless wars, his real plan for us and this place had been well established. That's right. God already created the heaven he wanted. That's the loose farm Earth. Remember, to the vampire gods, endless suffering is the point of life. Loosh is the point. And if you're willing to accept that, then maybe you can figure out how we can organize and put an end to it, or, maybe in several hundred years of fighting them, lessen it. I don't know. I disagree that it's a prison planet. I say that it's been repurposed into that, and it could be freed, but it would take a tremendous amount of work. Okay? And so, as Kurt Vonnegut Jr. said in the preface to his book Slaughterhouse-Five about being in the Korean War, the powers of good could overcome the powers of evil if the powers of good could get organized along the mafia. If you could learn to be smarter and better at psychology than Loser 4 and more organized than the mafia, then maybe we're talking then, That's a long shot. So, a very well-organized bad energy extraction system. Yes, your fake-ass religious God has tried very hard to make you suck, because he is the ultimate vampire. He takes, or should I say, the Yahweh or Jehovah Collective steals all of our energies if possible. The more devout we are, they can just have all of our energies, aren't we? Does that make us good? Yeah, they convinced you that that's what makes you good. I'm never going to say they're not good at what they do, man. Look how successful they were. Look how we argue over nothing constantly. Look at the hundreds of thousands of missing children whom they probably consumed, or their followers consumed. Where is your karma for that? Where is the karma for that? Pseudo-creators. If humans really had free will as a species, this globe would be the opposite. Think about that. You wouldn't have to pay rent. You wouldn't have to run wars. You wouldn't have to harm others. But see, you're at least gonna have to steal some eggs or collect tend to chickens or dairy animals or buy some milk because your brain was your DNA was changed and your brain was changed so that you need to consume cholesterol. So if you can do that in a way that doesn't harm anyone very much, then maybe. But really, I mean, it's a long shot for most people to not harm anyone, and what I say you can do when I say you can do anything you want if you don't harm anyone or anything, it's not an exaggeration. It's the harm that causes the limitation. It's the fake ass boundaries. Now, if the person's a narcissist or a predator and you don't have boundaries, what happens? I don't know if you could let down your boundaries with anyone. I don't know if you can trust anyone in the human body. Maybe. I mean, I've got to heal that. Except for that one person, the one that's already inside your body, your fragment or your essence, your soul, you can trust that you know what is best for you. If you can discern the difference, again, between the archons, the Lucifer fake voice, or your own voice, the original creator spirit that will not tell you to do stupid shit like Lucifer always does. So when I say you can do anything you want if you don't harm anyone or anything, it's not an exaggeration. You can see the L, their Hellites, fake reptilian royalty, and government rulers. Government in Latin is governmente, which means mind control. You can see that they've all used violence and coercion to steal, coax and con and kill for all of their so-called authority. No exception. When has a government or a king ever just been able to peacefully rule over something besides their own body? That's why I don't believe in it. That's why I'm a peaceful anarchist, because as soon as somebody else is ruling over me, I feel it in my gut that I'm failing. I might work with others. Sure, I work with others all the time, but that's different. Contract job, that's different. You're your own boss on the contract job to some degree. So I decided to do this healing project, but it's open-ended because only a few people have ever healed this illness. So how is obedience to false creators going to save anyone? How's it really going to help you? Well, it saves the loose farm and the false gods themselves only, really. It saves their ability to keep the matrix going. It saves their ability to keep destroying our subconscious, at least in subtle ways. If they're forced by the Aquarian spirits to do it more peacefully, they'll just torture you subtly while trashing us all. Why are teachers such as Howdy Mikowski, Anne-Marie Uber, Tony Sayers, and Benedictine the Truth allowed to tell thousands of folks the truth about this being a loose farm? And the Forever Conscious Research Channel is another one. Because none of them have had children, and they all teach the cathartic concept that reproduction is wrong on a prison planet. You see, the thing is, I guess if you had enough money to buy an island, I met a woman here in Santa Cruz when I first moved here who told me that she got millions of dollars and she got rid of her social security number, but that she purchased an island and converted the island into a corporation and got rid of her social security number in that way. So there's people that have, I hasten to say it because it easily leads to psychosis and schizophrenia or some other weird mental illness, but or people that are schizoid. But you know, um, people that know how to, like the Amish, can isolate them from the world, themselves from the world enough to create a different level of peace and harmony in their community and different values. There's people that have been able to raise their children with morality and respect. Yeah, they did isolate. Usually, I don't see, man, if they don't isolate, especially if they're, say, here in California, I don't know how their kids are gonna not be weirdos. But here comes my lizard family, and it'd be cool if you got in a video. But I wonder if this is the same lizard that's been here for like couple years. But the thing is that they must hibernate in the winter because I don't see them till it's nice. So, there's others who share the real truth about the loose farm and etc. The truth about spirituality on planet Earth on YouTube, for example, that have children. But you can bet your sweet bippy their children will never reproduce, because, with most of them at least, because they think this is a place of suffering that we should escape. So, which, again, it's been repurposed to be. If Luciferians successfully infiltrate all the communities, that's right, get inside all of them. Think Osho and Sheila was a worst case example. How can this beautiful place return to its real divine nature? This being that you get on your knees and worship and say is all peaceful and all knowing and all good and sees all we do and we got to obey. What have they done to stop geoengineering or child abuse or, all the horrific crimes and disappearance of the children? How can this beautiful place return to its real? Why are they allowed its real divine nature? Why they're allowed to speak is because no children will be here. If you agree with all the things these people are saying, and you learn the truth, and these are some handsome young men or women or attractive women, and they convince you that it's wrong to have children. You see, then you see the deceiver and all their clubs and all their Abrahamic religions and all their governments and all their secret societies and all their big tech controls. They won't have to answer. They won't have to answer for their crimes. They won't have to face their reflection of what they're doing. Because everyone on this earth will be an NPC or a cyborg, Humans 2.0, or some other kind of idiot sycophant. There will be no children will be here who are living in truth. That's really sad. If you've seen this, you've been around this, of course, a lot of us have seen, what happens to children when they're raised in the woke and the fake and the inverted and the sick, and they're trained to be sickos, and they go to drag queen story hour and all this shit, and they're trained in these ways. What happens? It's the normalization of Satanism, the normalization of Luciferianism, the mainstreaming of, what happens to this guy came on Tucker Carlson and brazenly said, we have in the school district in Chicago, we have, free after school Satanism class for children and twice a month, and everyone's welcome, and we teach them how to peacefully worship Baphomet or some bullshit, but it's like, that's what they're trying to do, is make it look like it's clever. The Satanic Temple of Santa Cruz did save our shores and took care of Seabright Beach for a year. They're trying to make it look like it's all nice. So thus it is that much easier to take it all. Sure, it is very evil to bring someone to life in a big prison, but can we create pockets of peaceful villages here? Is that possible? It's a very tall order, I'll admit. But if we're too scared of the false gods, and if we're not willing to torture the kids, I mean, I understand that, man. That makes a perfect. I'm not saying all those people don't make perfect sense. I'm not saying I don't agree with them. I'm saying it's sad because I could intuitively see what this planet was like before the Anunnaki got here and after they're gone. That's why I made a video that was called "Before Abraham and After Loser 4 is Gone, I am that." Because it is a peaceful, divine, beautiful place, and our species does have that potential to be great divine junior gods ourselves, but only if we, are really super courageous and willing to do the shadow work. If we're too scared, the 1% robber barons responsible, the 1% robber baron, reprehensible human mental garbage dumps they surely are, if we're afraid of them, we will continue to allow them and Lockheed Martin to terraform our skies, lands, and human bodies into barren deserts of AI nano-encrusted wastelands. Does that sound fun? Well, that's already happening. Trees are dying. Plants are dying. Lots of people that stay in tents who have diseases have all been exasperated, especially even if they would never take the experiment. It's happening, man. Do you think they asked for permission? No. Do you think they did a city council meeting about the 15-minute city in Santa Cruz? Hell no, man. They would have had people screaming and yelling at them until 1 in the morning like they did the tent city, man. They went and built the damn thing. It's almost more than halfway done now. Hey, the Hellites were willing to give them a lot of money for that, so they did it. Just stand down, Just like the acid test, just like the New Cage movement that was started by Madame Blavatsky, a Luciferian, who started a corporate trust fund company called Lucius. It was called Lucifer Trust, and they changed it to Lucis Trust to make it a little less obvious. So just stand down. Just stand down. That's what the New Cage movement's all about. That's what it was set up for. With no possibility of rent control, people in this beautiful, extremely haunted, psychological country club prison and loose, psychological golden chain prison with no bars, but where people were mostly all psychologically imprisoned. And loose prison farm actually compete to give all of their lives to survive somewhere as physically lovely as Santa Cruz, California. They think they live here, but they're running around stressed out. They toil and stress mostly. Mostly only. Sadly, man, Keith, the rebellious meat puppet, that's his YouTube and Odyssey name. He's often correct. He did a lot of research, took a lot of ayahuasca, and that scripture in in Genesis about getting kicked out of Eden and having to live by the sweat of our brow and toil is referring to a massive black magic spell put on us to steal our energy. Guilt and shame were used to make us obedient energy slaves. Ain't God good all the time? Especially when you know his intention. Vampire world without end. Amen. Amen. I just wanted to hurl when I heard people singing that. There's something about it that always sounded wrong to me. Of course, they weren't chanting vampire, but the truth shall set you free, but first you will be very pissed. there is a necessity, there is a necessary grieving process, as others have said. You know, I mean, it's hard to face these. If you've been willing to watch this whole video and you're not already totally, 90% enlightened, there's probably going to be a grieving process with all this stuff, you know? There's going to be a self-forgiveness period for, all the trauma bonds to these junior god, Elohim, Anunnaki that we've had over the many, many lifetimes, that we've psychologically and physically tortured ourselves in obedience to their rules and their ideas and their inverted concepts that God was in the sky and going to punish us if we didn't do all these things they forced us to do, and through coercion and blood. And there's certainly in this, I haven't been all the way through it myself, so I'm still going through that process. This is one reason I haven't made many videos. They try to pull me back down into the lower emotional states, and really, honestly, some of the things in the geoengineering have been more advanced and working it psychologically on me. So, like I say, I'll never say they're not really good at the sick ass shit they do, but it's sick ass shit. It really is. The truth shall set you free, but first you'll be very pissed. There isn't this, you gotta go through that if you want to heal. Probably, you can't fake it. You can't spiritually bypass, man, or it ain't gonna work. Forced separation is the key to falsities. I remember in 2020, I looked on the ground and it said 6 and a stop sign on the ground at stores and the bus stop. And there was another 6. 3 feet away from that one, then 3 feet away from that one, another 6. And it was 6, 6, 6. It was like, could they be a little more obvious who's behind this shit? Because you see, they've done a great job at separating everything. If you're not going to be willing to, face your shit on that, I've been hypocritical about that. I find it easier to do this than so many. And then I find other spiritual teachers similar to me in that way, and it's ironic. It's easier to go back to 2D than to go to 5D, 6D. To really let go of the ego that stands in the way of full-on communion with all the people. Or easy to go to 4D even, so, to move. So, it's really hard, to accept these harsh facts, but we've got to face it somehow. It is scary to wake up to this knowing you're in a negative energy extraction matrix, yet this is like, this makes it easier to say fuck you when the archons tell you to do something harmful, Yet this also shows how you fear, this shows you how fear is the root problem often, and a food for the hell know him. The world is so hubristic. It lets us speak truth. It lets people like me make videos like this, because Loser 4, the Zionists, the Illuminati are so cocky, so narcissistic and hubristic. They're so cocksure, they think they've already won so well. Who will listen? Especially if they put a shadow ban on the person, Inflation grows, taxes are out of control. The Luciferians who run the MSM have been so successful. Citizens of the USA don't talk much shit when our landlord president, who adores his own golden cage, appoints Elon Musk as the unelected king of the USA to clean up the government. I would not be disabled. I'd actually probably have already healed all my illnesses if we were actually if I was in a clean world, or if I control my environment so well that, at the point when I do, I'll be able to say this is what I did to actually fully heal every illness I have. But it's hard. You have to fight against stuff like geoengineering. But this hijack world grows uncurable illnesses with its filth. It does. I'm not trying to play victim or blame game, but it is a huge factor. Elon Musk, what could go wrong with having him as the unelected king of the USA? What could go wrong with this scenario? Because we know greed is the highest virtue, right? I mean, we're Americans. We know that, right? So it makes sense, right? Being a master manipulator of the Dark ET and Dark Brotherhood created black magic money systems, the most powerful lord of technocracy to rule over us all is the main requirement for lordship here. In other words, according to this sick-ass inverted belief, we know that he's qualified because he's been able to make the most money. Hello, duh, can't you? Of course he's qualified to be the king of the USA because greed is the highest virtue. Correct? Really, if money is power, might makes right. If money is power, endless war is a smart idea. That's right, all the dogmatic people over there in Europe, they really think it's intelligent. War is smart if money is power. Because look at what happens if you have a lot of money, you can make a lot of money off war. So war must be smart, since greed is the highest virtue. If a pickpocket is caught, he must go to jail. If you rob a Walmart, you can get in trouble. If you have a deadly disease, that's incurable, well, you can just get paid for it, and that's debatable as to how bad that is. But if a very organized group of malevolent ETs terrify large groups into compliance and demand sacrifice, or make them take an experiment that hasn't been done before that might kill them rapidly, it isn't theft. It is good. Because not only did they warn you they were going to do it, predictive programming and revelation of the method, it was ideas they got from these divine beings. These are divine beings. They created us. Balderdash. They're really talented genetic engineers. Because humans are inherently good and naive. Vulnerability is strength and healing psychologically. When you speak about your psychological healing, you come to a point when you realize that if you can be vulnerable again after going through such psychologically traumatic things as family systems of narcissistic abuse, then you're healing, right? With the respectful partner or psychologist, vulnerability. Vulnerability to controllers and narcissist psychopaths means you will be drained, of course, in one way or the other. Can we turn this earth back into the extremely beautiful home it is inherently? Can we create pockets of sanity? Can you create a pocket of sanity in your home and online? We must bring an end to geoengineering and government tyranny and religious wars based on lies if it can be done. Knowledge really is the real power. Gnosis is really a magical, benevolent city power that I have given you out of the generosity of my heart and because I love humanity and I wanted to make this my work. At some point, I'll have to convert it into a way I can make money. As long as currency still exists. Gnosis can be freedom, but the truth has a sting. Let it sting the vampires. Kick God's trash out of your subconscious. Can you peacefully kick God's trash thoughts out of your subconscious? Don't identify with the derogatory, stupid thoughts constantly beaming in from the archons every time you're having anxiety or depression or anger. There it is. You should kill yourself. You should kill him. These are the beings who work with God. Aren't they smart? No, they're only smart in the dark arts. When it comes to morality or self-respect, they're repugnant fucking idiot demons. But when it comes to the dark arts, they're very smart. So, I'm not sure if this is a good idea or not, but at first, I've had to say in the beginning of my healing, dealing with the fake voices of Voice to Skull, the fake gods, when they told me to harm myself, I told them, you can tell them, no, you should do that shit to yourself, you talented vampire loser. You are very talented for a scum-sucking loser entity who doesn't belong in this planet. You should go to the black hole you came from and leave me out of it, because I'm going to show you up. Every time you try to cause harm to me, I'm going to compliment you at how good you are and tell you how pathetic you are, because that's the truth. I'm not sure if that's giving them too much energy or not. It's up to you, That might be a bad idea, I say don't throw the baby out with the bathwater and never trust or believe anyone or any teaching 100%. Verify it for yourself. Run it by all three of your brains. The brain in your heart, the brain in your gut, and the brain in your brains. And now, is that true? Is that true? The Dalai Lama, they say, wakes up 2 hours before the other monks, goes to bed at 7 p.m., wakes up at 3 a.m. every morning and does insight meditation for 2 hours. Is that true? Is that true? Is that true? Become clear in your thoughts. Become lucid in your discernment, and then you will know the difference between bullshit and lies and reality. The funny thing is, if the bifurcation is real, God, the angels, the kings, and presidents are the chaff, ironically, If they're not willing to change and become respectful, if they stay vampires, including me, if anyone who has any occupation which involves taking, if they're not willing to change or transform or become balanced in some way, it could all be ripped away, and they could realize they are the chaff, up to and including the gods, because unless they, are willing to change, it's just not possible to stay. If it's true that this planet and humanity is going to ascend, if that's true, they have to be cut off from lordship. Peaceful anarchy is not at all chaotic, okay, or violent. It's the opposite. It is the natural state of awakened humans. Now, that being said, our brains, we wouldn't have to steal other animals' placenta or steal their milk for the health of our brains, but we probably wouldn't be nearly as smart, as advanced in warfare and mathematics and even music and inventions and gadgets, and some of the things the Anunnaki gave us, sure, have helped us a lot. But what was the price? At being turned into perpetual farm animals? It is the natural state of awakened humans to be sovereign anarchists who don't harm anyone else. You respect others. You do not rule over them. That is unnatural. Racism of all sorts came from these beings, in my opinion, too. If you hate them, if you hate their warden race, if you hate Jewish people, guess what? You're just responding with the same trashy idea that these beings brought. That one race is better than the others. One race is chosen, the other race is a cattle. It's all trashy ideas. If you think one race, there's good and evil in all races, man. If you think one's better than the other, you're a fucking spiritual moron. Okay? There is good and evil in all races. All people, probably, to some degree. Thieves cannot be in control of sovereign beings who are respectful. If you were real to the real self, I mean really awakened and really real. Well, if we are collectively awakened at least long enough. You understand? That's at least true. If the collective is awakened, it doesn't work anymore. What can you do individually? What can you do to help your soul awaken from, gnosis, you learn. To begin to free yourself from lies, free your mind. This system of intentional dumping of filth, mental, emotional, dogmatic, psychical and physical inverted dogma trashing through mind control and geoengineering must stop. Say what happens when 63% of all people that have in flesh, divine essence beings Fire creation beings in flesh suits are demanding that peacefully. But only you can wake yourself up. No one else can do it for you. I can't do it for you. I can help to steer you towards it. Can humans create communities uncorrupted by them? Can you see the truth? That you must rule over yourselves in peace? How will we stop bending over and giving our entire lives to legal and evil E.T. thieves who say they're divine beings who have the right to rule over this planet, which they stole through wars and violence and all these incredible weapons, which we only know a fraction of? Stop thinking they're good, for one thing. Remember, you are good. Remember the real, original God, creator, goddess Christ Sophia within you was originally good. Before the Anunnaki got here, you, if you were here then, you were good. Remember, you are good, and you don't need any vampires for a second opinion. If you enjoyed this and you haven't already, make sure to subscribe or follow me on Odyssey for a deeper red pill. Follow me on Rumble if you like. And of course, if you have the courage, folks, as always, even on the loose farm earth, figure out a way in your little world of your life to create a great one if you can. Make it beautiful where you are. Or, if you're in a place with beautiful scenery that's really haunted, don't identify, again, with the archons, the haunted, the ghosts, the demons, the idiot spirits. Identify with the beauty. Identify with the peace. Because originally, in the beginning and in the end, this is who the real awakened essence being in a human form is. A divine being, a creator in peace.